Hey, hi parents, this is Dr. Mack, and I'm so happy that you could join us today to learn more about the STEAM Fair Night projects that our fourth grade students are actually embarking on this week. This webinar is actually an offshoot of the fourth grade teacher webinar we did. I think we left that feeling that an additional STEAM webinar would be beneficial for all of you since this is the first year that many of you are going to, your children are going to be taking a part of this, and you're going to have the pleasure of actually seeing the culmination of all of their hard work in May. So I do want to let you know who's in the room with me. Mrs. Missouri is in here, who is Mr. Hantz's assistant in the science lab. Mr. Hantz, of course, is here. And then Mr. Nama is also in the room with us to help us with the technology. And he may jump in a little bit to talk a little bit about the tech piece as well. So same format as the one we did with the fourth grade teachers, that we're going to hold questions until the end of the webinar, and then I will actually moderate those for everyone. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hantz.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Mr. Hantz. So today, what I really want to do is introduce who's involved with the STEAM Fair and give you a walkthrough. So the fourth graders actually aren't having this project introduced until tomorrow. So everything you're hearing today, they will get covered tomorrow and in probably even more detail than I give to you today. So on the screen now, you can see who is actually involved with the STEAM Fair. 3 years ago, we had about 3 teachers involved with the STEAM Fair. Now, including the 4th and the 5th grade team who do volunteer their time and participate in the STEAM Fair, we're right at 20 teachers that are involved in the planning and the implementation of the STEAM Fair. So like I said, this is going to be a walkthrough of what the students are going to do for the STEAM Fair. My goal by the end of this is that you have a better and clearer understanding of what your child is doing in the STEAM Fair, why we at St. Martin's think it is an important experience for them, and then pass along some of the pertinent information that you may need to be aware of as your child does this. So we're going to go all the way through this year's theme. We're going to cover the calendar, how we do the groups and the size of the groups, our new certification system, the process of the actual project itself. New this year, we're doing some goal setting, and I'll explain that to you. Talk about the work sessions, STEAM night, and then how to communicate with the teachers during the STEAM Fair. So this year's theme is inquiry and action. We started last year with putting a theme on the STEAM Fair, and our theme is not meant to limit the creativity of the students. If anything, we really want to guide and enhance the students' creativity by putting a theme on it. We felt this was appropriate this year because we have started doing more of the certifications. We have been doing more questioning and STEAM activities in the classroom, and so we want them to take their inquiry, their questions, and put it into action through this project this year and see how their thoughts, their research, the builds, or their science project are all tied together. So key dates for 4th grade on March 22nd, so tomorrow, that's when all 4th grade classes will be introduced to the project. March 29th is when we will have the students have their project choice and their research question chosen. Being as this is their first year, that is a process, the choosing of the project that Mrs. Missouri and I will help guide them through if we start to see that it's necessary for their group. April 13th, we are doing midway feedback, and the midway feedback is going to be in the form of, we're going to split the project into different categories, which is the research, the build, the art component, and basically kind of give them some written feedback on where they're at and where they can improve and what they're doing really well. The midway feedback is not an actual grade, but it is meant to guide some conversations that might need to happen or reinforce what is happening really well before the project is over and there is a grade assigned at the end. On April 26th, their research is due. The research is due a little before the actual project is due, and that's because we want to make sure the actual research is done before they have to finish up their trifold poster. So they're not trying to do everything last minute. So time management is a big part of this. May 2nd, that's when the project is due, and we put everything up for display in the middle school, and that's when classes can go through and start to view them as well. And then May 3rd is our STEAM night, and I'm going to talk a lot about that later on in the presentation. On the right of your screen, that is a screenshot of the STEAM Fair Topics page. You can access that on the science website under the Topics tab. The STEAM Fair Topics tab is going to be your one-stop shop for everything related to the STEAM Fair. And you can see that I've circled fourth grade has an instructional packet for download there. That is a PDF that is compatible with their iPads, and it has a full calendar that I've just gone over with you there, and a work session calendar, which we're going to cover in more detail later, but it is right there already for download. Those dates are set. So if you want to go ahead and check those out, you can on the website as well. STEAM groups. For fourth grade, we do groups of 3 to 5 students. The groups are formed in a series of meetings, really, between myself, Mrs. Missouri, the fourth grade team, and Dr. Mack. So it's an extremely collaborative effort, and we do try and communicate where we think the students would fit best, and it's something we don't take lightly. We spend a lot of time putting them in groups. Fourth grade groups are all boys or they're all girls, and that's why they range from 3 to 5. Sometimes the numbers just don't work out evenly. And we believe that being an all-boy and all-girl groups is appropriate in fourth grade. In fifth grade, they're mixed into groups of boys and girls together. Certifications. Hopefully, you've already heard a lot about the STEAM certifications this year. The purpose of the certifications was to equip students with the skills they would need for the STEAM fair and allow them, even in fourth grade, to pursue more advanced projects. We started these back in August as a full class, level 1 certification. We built the tables, we measured and built the tables that you now see in our outdoor classroom. And all the students signed those, which is a really cool thing to experience. And they even went through the process with my help of putting them together with the drill and the screws and everything. Level 2, they started doing research and seeing how the research could be put into action. So they did research, they designed and built straw rockets, and then they tested and collected data on them. We want to see that they can do a plan and go from there. Level 1 and level 2 are the only ones that were required. So if your child has not finished level 2, those certifications are still going on now. They should be really the only certifications that are still going on at this point. Level 3 and 4 for fourth grade were optional if your child wanted to pursue them. Level 3 was all about electricity and circuits, and what that did is it allowed those students to then be able to cut their own wire during the STEAM fair and use electrical components. So now they can use batteries and motors and LED lights and do motorized cars and things like that. Level 4 was 3D printing and design, and we did have a few fourth grade students that got certified in 3D print this year. This will be the first year that any fourth grader has done 3D printing for the STEAM fair. So it's kind of some good reinforcement that students really do want to do it. And we want to push them as much as we can and allow them to create those experiences for the STEAM fair. Next year, they will be able to go through level 5, which will add a technology piece. This year, the technology that we added for them for the component was if they were level 5 certified, they could add an augmented reality piece to their project, which is really neat to see. And we had a few fifth graders that chose to go all the way through level 5 this year as well. Okay, the overall process. So the process of the STEAM fair is you're going to be introduced to it. The students will be introduced tomorrow. They're going to choose a project. They're going to learn how to budget. We work with that in math classes as well. They're going to research. We are going to help them with their research questions. I'll talk on that a little more later. They make a plan, they make a design, and they build their project. If it is an engineering build, if it is a science project, they usually make a plan and they figure out how they're going to test it. And then they work to share and present the research they have. There are a lot of categories. There's a lot of moving parts in the STEAM fair. And this year we have provided them a binder with tabs for each and every section to help them with their organization skills and kind of model for them what good organization looks like and how you can keep multiple things moving. And because this does happen in technology class, in art class, in math classes, and sometimes they have free time that I go down and help them in their grade levels, they keep their binders in crates. And all they have to do is come up, get the crate from my classroom, and they're welcome to take and work on their project when they have the time in the other classes as well. All right. So the first big piece is choosing a project. So this is really a three-pronged approach. So we are going to provide the students with a project catalog, which is in a brand new format this year. And I'd like to show that to you right now. So we're using Joe Mag, and it actually is a digital catalog this year. So if you go ahead and we're going to open it up, and all throughout the catalog, there are hotkeys. So some of the hotkeys, so for example, the number 9 on vehicles and machines is going to flip you directly to that portion of the project. Other hotkeys throughout the throughout the catalog are actually going to take the students to the instructions on whether it's a website, a PDF, they can click on it and it's going to take them to the instructions so they can learn more about the project, see if it's feasible for them, and see what their interest level is. You'll also notice that there is a minimum level next to each project. So for instance, the balloon-powered boat is a level 2, meaning everybody that is taking part in the project should be able to do it. The candy dispenser is a level 3, and that's just because it uses some more advanced tools. However, if the students really want to do something that is a level 3 and they're only level 2 certified, that's something they can meet with Mrs. Missouri and myself about, and we can figure out a way that they can do some tiered version of that project that's still going to be something that interests them. We don't want to hinder their interest level. We just want to make sure that the projects they're doing are appropriate. So if we go back now to the presentation, the other two components that are important for choosing a project are the STEAM certifications. I just talked to that. And then those question marks at the top of the pyramid, that represents the natural curiosity and inquiry of the students. I want this to be about their interest. I'm here to support them. Typically, we have 31 different groups between 4th and 5th grade, and typically I have 20 different projects going on, and it's up to me and Mrs. Missouri and that team of 20 teachers to make sure we have the information the students need to support them as well. Okay? All right, budgeting. So 4th grade students have a budget of $200 SMES dollars to spend during the STEAM fair. While this is not a perfect like-for-like dollar amount, the actual investment between the groups for these projects is around $1,000. So again, we really want to make sure whatever they want to pursue, that they have the means to do that. So there is a tiered process to doing this budget. The first thing they're going to do is go to the project catalog and see what they can buy. So we have a catalog of over 500 products. Again, there are hotkeys throughout, so if they wanted to go to the household supplies, they could click on that. and all of the products are going to be there and have a description and a price and how they're going to get them. So when they make the list of supplies for what they're going to need, everything should be in here. If it is not in here, they can approach Mrs. Missouri or myself, and we can give them a price for that. So if we head back now, once they have their products, the next step is to put it into a work page. These work pages are new this year, which is the second tier you see on the budget. It is so that they can put a line item. It's the start of a ledger. They can put the name of the item. They can put the item number, which is what they're going to use to order it through us, the price, the quantity below that, and then the total price. Then they take their remaining budget and they subtract it out from that. And for 5th grade, they end up getting 300, but for 4th grade, they start at 200. So 200 minus 50, they would have $150 remaining. And then they put it into a master running ledger, which is what they will use to actually make their list of supplies. And that way it's kind of an at-a-glance view. They can see every step of what they purchased. And then they go online back to the topics page, and there's a product Google form. And what that does is they can go in there, they enter in all those item numbers that they want to order, the quantity they want to order, and that actually populates a spreadsheet, one, for us to order things, but two, it also, because it is a spreadsheet, it also lets us double check their math. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and we can double check their math that way. That way, if there's anything we need to address, we can catch it before it's too late. So that's a really neat new feature that we're starting this year. Research. So we work incredibly close with Mrs. Stewart and Mrs. Crosby in the library. And for 4th grade, we said, they have not had a lot of research experience. So we sat down and we had a meeting, and we felt it was appropriate that this year that they work with one research question, but really get into that research question nice and deep. So they're going to work with Mrs. Missouri and myself to come up with a research question. And that's that form that you see in the upper left-hand corner. And then it also models how they can do the research. So we are not expecting MLA format or anything like that for citations, but Mrs. Crosby in the library is working with them on citation, even in the 4th grade. And we've made a tiered approach that we think is grade level appropriate. So it starts helping them find where the citation information is located in books, on websites, so that it's setting them up in 5th grade when it gets a little more complicated. They know exactly where it's at. And in middle school, when they actually do MLA format, they've already been exposed to that format starting in 4th grade. So that the form just below the 4th grade research overview, where it says source, research question, and my notes, they have several copies of this research page in their binder, and every time they find a new source, they're going to take down that information, and then they're going to handwrite their notes. That way we fight the copy and paste, temptation. And if they're handwriting it and then going back and doing the research later, it really helps with them writing what they think rather than what they just read, which is really kind of a challenge for everybody. For the trifold, Mrs. Tyler works very closely with them on doing design for the trifold. She works and talks about color or complementary colors, organization, and she helps them make sure that what they're presenting on their trifold looks really nice. Mrs. Missouri created a form, and now they can order construction paper for their backing, so it looks nice there. But they can also order die-cut letters and everything through the form, which is right there. They type in the word they want and what color they want it, and it sends it to Mrs. Missouri. And with a magic 48-hour turnaround time, she goes and die cuts the letters for them and then puts them in the binder so that they have some nice organized letters for her. Is there anything either of you would like to add? Mrs. Tyler is not here with us as well.
Well, we're working on organizing our thoughts and making sure everything looks nice and neat. The number one rule is not to write directly on the trifold. So we talk about how is best to present their work and how they can put that paper on their boards before they even have their research finished, just to evenly space it out, how to tie in their theme with colors, how to pick good colors, how to choose, if they're doing something that has to do with solar power, maybe pick something that has to do with the colors of the sun and incorporate that. So we just kind of want them to think about how they can make it look visually appealing and neat, and really help them resist that urge to take a marker directly to the trifold.
So in that bottom right-hand corner, and I almost neglected to mention it, but it is awesome this year, we have a print request form. As part of the project, they actually purchased a trifold package, and as a part of that, they get 10 prints, and they fill out this form, and it actually gets sent to Dr. Matt. And I think that is a wonderful way of showing how this project actually incorporates the entire elementary school, not just the science and technology department. So Dr. Mack actually does the printing for them, and that way they go up to her office to pick up those prints after 24 business hours. And it's just a really great way for them to interact and see that their principal is even a major part of this project. Goal setting. I am so excited for this year. It's brand new, and if what I've been talking about sounds like a lot for a 4th grade student or a 5th grade student, you're probably right. And to help out with that, we work with the students on goal setting. So not just setting goals, but reflecting on the goals and how they're making progress on them. So each week, they'll set 4 goals, and that's the back side of the page on the far right, over there. And the first goal every week is we will collaborate as a group. We will share our opinions in a constructive way and work to maintain a positive work environment. That is really challenging for a group of 4th graders that all have their own ideas. They don't always have to agree, but they need to understand why they have differing opinions. It can't just be, that's my idea, that's the way it is. And by giving them these goal sheets, we hope that we have given them a safe and structured space to honestly evaluate their collaborative efforts. So that way it creates a space and opens the space for those discussions to happen organically between the students rather than the teachers sitting down with the students. And that's very important to me, that they start to socially see that there are differing views and we can all have our piece of the pie, but we need to explain why it's important to us and how we can incorporate each other's ideas into the overall project. All right, work sessions. Ideally, we would love for the STEAM fair to take place only during our class time, and in the past we've tried for that to happen. However, we've learned that most of the groups need a block of time before or after school to really get a nice jump on the project or the build or the trifold, one or the other. And so this year, rather than wait till the last minute, the whole group of the STEAM team and myself sat down and we set dates for before and after school work sessions. These after school and before school work sessions are opportunities for the students to work with teacher volunteers. So people that might not always be in the science lab, but are going to volunteer their time to stay after work and work with the students on this project because it's important to them. So the necessary information for the students to sign up for an after-school work session especially, and I have a screenshot of this on where to find this on the next slide, but they need to have their grade, their homeroom teacher's name, their group number. They need to have the parent name of who they want contacted for permission. They need the parent email of the parent they want contacted for permission, and a parent phone number. That phone number piece is for after school only, and I will only use that phone number if if somebody's late picking them up or there's an emergency and I need to get a hold of somebody quickly, that just puts it in a spreadsheet for me so I don't have to go to the directory. It's already in one place for me. And then from the list of dates, they need to know what date they need to have before they sign up. And each group member that's going to attend has to sign up. So on the policy side of things, at least half the group needs to be present. So if it's a group of 5, 3 of them need to be there. I understand there are practices and things after school, but there are several dates that we're offering, and I prefer that the whole group is there. But if it can't be the whole group, at least half. All members must sign up individually. Parent email approval is necessary. So the week prior to that actual date, I'm going to email all the parents of the students who signed up and say, dear all, your child is signed up. Do they have your permission to stay from 3:15 to 4:30 in the science lab? And I do need a reply. Otherwise, your child, in my eyes, has not been approved. I need to hear back from you when I send those emails out. And then please be on time picking up your child after school, just because, again, these are volunteers that are staying after work. So it is just a really nice thing to be there and pick up your child on time. For after school work sessions, those are 3:15 to 4:30. I have 10 dates on the calendar right now. The after school work sessions are only for the project build and research. So you can either be working on the project in the science lab, or we will have a quiet space for students to go and work on their research so they don't have to try and work in between people making a bunch of noise and everything. The before school sessions are from 7:15 to 8. And there are only 4 of those dates, but those are for working on the trifold poster and putting the research and the presentation together. That is, again, from 7:15 to 8. Please don't come early because there might not be somebody at the desk waiting on you before 7:15. That is important. And again, that is only for the trifold work. So where do they sign up? They can sign up on the topics page. Again, at the bottom, there's a link to the after school work session and before school work session. They're separate forms. And again, if you're interested in seeing what dates those are, on the right side of that topics page, there is a calendar already published right there for you to see. And the work sessions are also in the 4th grade instructional packet, which is directly above it. So you can see that as well. All right, STEAM night. STEAM night is the culmination, and it is a celebration. The kids love it. It is one of my favorite nights, probably my favorite night ever of the year, and it has gotten better each and every year. I love meeting the parents, and I love seeing how enthusiastic the students get about their work. It is incredible to see how the students will light up each year to explain their research and their builds to parents, whether they're their parents or somebody else's parents. They get so excited about that. And that is going to be on May 3rd at 6:30. We pretty much take over the entire middle school building so we can spread out a little bit. And students need to arrive at 6 o'clock for that. They'll actually come down to the Commons and meet with me beforehand, so they're not just in the middle school. So they'll be in the Commons. Please wear a regular uniform, not the dress uniform. And parents, I'd like for you to arrive around 6:30, and the evening will begin with a presentation in the atrium. And if you are a little early, you can go directly to the atrium. Please don't wander the halls. We do typically go see the projects in shifts because there are a lot of us. And if you do respect that, it makes it a much more pleasant evening because it makes it easier to get through the hallways. There's 3 floors of projects, and it's still just a lot of people. All right, communications. This is the last thing I'd like to go over before if we have any questions. I know I'm already right at my time, but for STEAM Fair communication, for student questions and concerns, part of the reason we did those certifications is it starts to get students comfortable with emailing the teachers and kind of taking ownership of that communication when they have questions. So it really adds comfort to that and adds ownership to their learning experience. So to reinforce that, if a student emails me a question or they have a concern, I am going to do my very best to answer that as quickly as I possibly can because I really want to reinforce the students' taking ownership of their questions. If I believe it's a question I can answer in email, I'll do that. If it's something I want to see them and I think we need to have a face-to-face discussion, I'll probably ask that they see me the next morning. For parent-teacher communications, if something comes up and you need to ask a question about the STEAM fair, please direct all STEAM-related questions to me. I'll probably be your best contact on that. My email is there. My extension is below that if you'd like to give me a phone call. And if I need to copy somebody, a homeroom teacher, Dr. Mack, the technology department, when I do the reply, I will copy the necessary parties on that. That way, I mean, teachers already have enough. Let me take this burden and really be the point person on communicating with you. I probably have the answer, and that way we get the correct answer right away. So, any questions?
Okay, so just a reminder that if you'd like to ask a question of Mr. Hance, Mrs. Tyler, Mr. Nama, Ms. Missouri, myself, if you look down on your chat screen, you have a chat box, a chat button option. You just click that, and if you type it in, and then I will field those questions and throw it out to the group.
Play some Jeopardy music.
We should. And we like to give you guys time to think, because I know that a lot of information just came your way. So it looks like that you guys know everything you could possibly know about the fourth grade STEAM fair and the projects that your students are going to be doing. Hopefully this has allowed you to have a much better understanding of what your children are going to be doing starting this week through the first week of May. It is definitely an interdisciplinary, complex, lots of moving parts project. It is phenomenal, and your students are going to grow tremendously during this process. And when you come for that STEAM night in May, you are going to be absolutely astounded at what these students are able to do in this amount of time with the adult support here. I do want to add that really none of this should be done at home. This is not meant to be something where you are involved with it. Your children may go home and do some research on their own or things like that, and that's fine. But this project is meant to be done in-house with the teacher support we have here. So if you're seeing a lot of crossover at home, please reach out to Mr. Hance, because he will need to know so that he can redirect or guide your child and make it clearer that the majority of work needs to be done here. Would you agree, Mr. Hance?
Absolutely. And that's a big part of it is if you're seeing something at home and you feel like it, or you're not sure it needs to be communicated, go ahead and communicate it. That way we have an open line of communication as well, because we do want to support the students the best we can. And we want this to be about the students, which is why we try and keep it as much in-house as possible, so that it's really their ideas that are getting down on paper, and it's their ideas that become the final product.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the webinar. I do want to thank you again for joining us. This has been recorded. I will upload it to the elementary school parent page and send something out via the elementary school parent page. Mr. Hance will also upload it to the science page. So there's two different ways you guys can access this. I just see, can you please send the link for this presentation and the pages on the website to the room moms? Actually, we're going to do this through the elementary school parent page and Mr. Hance's science website. So those will be the two contact places for this presentation. Any other questions? Because I know now you guys are thinking, now you're thinking through the information. So if there aren't any other questions, please, if something does come up in your brain and you have a question about anything, please email Mr. Hance. As he said, if he needs to loop other people in to answer your question, he definitely will. So you guys have a great afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.